Welcome to the 60 Plus Podcast.
I'm Janet.
And I'm Joe. Did my voice sound a little deeper right there?
I don't know,
I
Joe.
think it surprised myself.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Let's talk like this through the whole entire podcast. For something different.
People don't see us, but we wear headphones. So when that voice came in, I think I just had a little.
Scared yourself,
I
huh?
did. It was like, who's that? How are you, Janet?
I am very well, thank you. How are
That's
you?
great. That's great. I'm well, thank you.
Oh, good.
Just well, not very well. I'm just well.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm very well.
What are we talking about today, Janet?
Okay, we're doing a Mythbuster.
We have to stop doing Mythbusters because it's very difficult to say.
Buster.
Maybe if I say it in my deeper voice.
Yeah.
Mythbuster.
It worked. Okay, good. That's what we're doing. Well, this is part 2 of the episode we had last week because we were speaking to Mike in Real Talk. And he talked a lot about limitations that we put on ourselves. He was talking about how he just started hydrofiling, which is, physically challenging, age 60. And one of his big words of wisdom was, we might have to change the way we do things. I think that sums it up.
I agree. And it wasn't intentional that this became like a
No,
follow-on
it
to that.
wasn't, but we were just thinking
after
about it. It was like, yeah, I think maybe sometimes we do impose these limitations on ourselves. So we thought we would research it a little bit. And also, we like to think of it here as a myth that we do have limitations because this is how we started this whole thing, right? We can do so much more than we give ourselves credit.
It's true. I frequently hear people say, I'm too old for that. And it's
Yeah.
self-talk, right?
It's exactly, what are you too old for? So we do have to recognize there is this attitude adjustment that might have to happen, right? Because, we might internalize some ageism in stereotyping where people are like, oh, that's not for you. You're wearing that? Isn't that, for a 20-year-old? No. So it can impact our behavior,
That can be
right?
true sometimes, though.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like midriffs that I see sometimes.
Well, I know, but I don't know. I was even talking about this with somebody who was like, your hair's getting really long. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I kind of like it. And they're like, oh, you don't want to be in that camp where, it's like, what? You can't have long hair when you're over 60?
I have an old friend. I knew her whole family. And when she turned 30, her mom said, okay, long enough with the long hair. You got to get a haircut now. You're too old for long hair. She was 30.
That's crazy. But see, those are the messages that you get from externally. And it's like you have to kind of internally fight against them because it can impact your behavior if you start self-stereotyping and all that.
And I think part of it is there's a fear of failure.
And that's another phenomenon. There's this concept of decreased sense of self-efficacy. And that's the belief that one's ability to succeed in specific situations or accomplish a task, that can go down with age. There's this idea of risk, and you might avoid new experiences altogether. And what's interesting? I thought about this, Joe.
No, I don't yet.
When I read this, some research showed that self-efficacy is a strong predictor of happiness in older adults.
Really?
Yeah.
So do they recommend self-efficacy or not?
Yes, because decreased self-efficacy can be associated with increased psychological problems.
Okay.
So there you have it.
All
There's
right.
a lot of research to back up that whole concept.
Now, another thing that I think affects people's willingness to take on new challenges or
Ability to do that
beyond what they perceive their limitations to be, it's just an old-fashioned resistance to change.
True. And definitely people do have different relationships with change. And you might just get real comfortable in your ways and you don't want to do anything different. And that's okay.
Well, it can be okay, but it shouldn't be the only reason why you don't take on a new challenge.
Right. Yeah.
Or take on, some new endeavor of some sort.
Who knows? There's no judgment here. But the point is that we want to recognize before we bust out this myth that, there are things like societal expectations and age norms, and that can put these imposed limitations on you. But we also want to recognize that there can be physical limitations,
Mm-hmm.
and we understand that, but there are ways to perhaps work around.
Mike talked about this last week.
He did.
With the surfing guys, right?
Yes.
And there were surfers from their 20s up until their 70s and beyond.
And beyond, yeah.
And he said the older guys, they'd go out and they'd catch one wave and they'd sit in their chair and they'd watch everyone else. And he said, and they were having just as much fun as the guy that was out there for 4
and
hours.
He said, I consider them surfers just as much as
Exactly.
a 20-year-old. So anyway, so I think it's important to remember that this isn't a universal experience, right? There's many people over 60 who are incredibly open to new experiences and will continue to have a growth mindset. And in fact, and here's where the Mythbuster comes in, Joe.
I think you might have a physical limitation.
We have so many examples of incredible people doing incredible things.
We just kept coming up with more and more.
I know. We can't read them all.
Mm-mm.
I mean, there's pages and pages of it, but I think we'll pull out a few.
Sure.
Ones that I kept on going, wow. Well, Grandma Moses, I knew about her, but I didn't realize that she didn't start painting until her late 70s.
Oh, wow.
And she painted well into her 90s and became globally known as a folk artist.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think, a great story.
Now, this is something that I have absolutely zero interest in doing.
Mm-hmm.
Probably negative interest in doing, but Yuichiro Miura, he climbed Mount Everest at the age of 80.
That's just nuts. I mean, climbing Mount Everest is really hard to do.
Have you ever met anyone that's climbed Mount Everest?
Actually, I didn't really meet somebody, but they have a coffee shop nearby. This guy who climbed Mount Everest, and there's like photos of him all over the coffee shop. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting, but it's not for the faint of heart.
It's not for the faint of heart, and I have zero interest in doing anything like it. But it's encouraging to know that not everyone could do it.
Right.
But the fact that anyone can do it is impressive.
And they attribute it to is rigorous preparation and mental discipline were the keys to his success. I mean, he had to train for that. That was not something. Was
you don't just get up one morning and
I feel like climbing Mount Everest. What do you think? You want to come? No.
I get up in the morning and saying, I might go upstairs.
Exactly. I like this one. Ernestine Shepherd. She started just exercising at 56, right? Near 60. But then she became the world's oldest female competitive bodybuilder at 74.
Wow.
Yeah.
That also, I have zero interest in.
Yeah, I know. Me too. But basically, she challenged all expectations of aging and fitness. So that's a cool example too.
Masako, I actually knew someone named Masako. Masako Wakamiya, at 81, developed Hinnaden, an iPhone app showcasing technological innovation.
Okay, so that's interesting.
Yep. And we've talked about like people our age.
We had a Mythbuster on that.
Right?
Well, there you go. We should have talked about him on that episode. Laura Ingalls Wilder. Probably a lot of people will recognize that name.
I think a lot of women would.
Little House on the Prairie. Well, that was a show too, as we were kids.
Yeah.
She published her first book at age 65. And there's a lot of examples of writers who, after the age of 60, even 70, became best-selling authors. So that's cool. I like that.
It really is. A marathon runner, Gladys Burrell, at the age of 86, became the oldest woman to finish a marathon at that time. 86.
That's like this other one, Diana Nyad. At age 64, the first person to swim from Cuba to Florida
There's a movie
without a shark cage.
Yeah, there was a movie recently about her.
Yeah.
And it took several attempts. No.
Yeah, it wasn't a straight line.
So, and another marathon runner, Harriet Thompson, 91, became the oldest woman to finish a marathon at that time. So the age keeps going up.
I like this one too. Faja Singh took up running at the age of 89. He completed numerous marathons, and at the age of 100 became the first centenarian to complete a marathon.
Oh. That's crazy.
It's great.
It really is. It really is. Again, something I have zero interest in doing.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that it can be done.
Yeah. And all of this, they attribute most of this to just about, well, certainly physicality, right?
Mm-hmm.
But mindset and determination. We forget how powerful our will is.
Don't you wonder what those people did when they were younger? They were probably type A in some
I don't
in
know.
some
I don't
sense.
know.
No?
You know, maybe. Oh, this one's a good one too. Dorothy Hoffner, at the age of 104, became the oldest person to ever skydive.
Wow. Well, the first President Bush used to skydive every year on his birthday, remember?
Oh, yeah, I
Yep.
guess, yeah.
And he did it well into his 80s, I
Yeah.
think.
Now, we know Tony Bennett. Everybody knows Tony Bennett, and he's been a legendary singer. But it was at the age of 95, he released an album with Lady Gaga and earning him the Guinness World Record as the oldest person to release an album of new material.
The fact that he knew who Lady Gaga was at age 95, I think, is impressive.
We'll talk about change. I mean, she's definitely a change maker for sure.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So this is all good stuff.
It is good stuff.
And, very inspiring. These are not, super people.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna
super people
dispute
because
that.
they
I'm gonna
did
dispute that because I know two super people
Mm-hmm.
that took on a new challenge of starting a podcast when they were over 60 years old.
Yeah, well, that's, okay. So we're busting our own myths
Busting
here.
our own myth.
Bust
All
a
right.
myth.
We talked about how people can self-sabotage, kind of say, oh, I'm too old.
Yeah.
But there are ways to get around that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit of a cop-out in a way, if you think about it.
Okay, I would say, well, I'm 65. I'm too old to climb Mount Everest.
Well, yeah, maybe, but
It's a cop-out.
That's
I never wanted to climb Mount
no,
Everest.
but well, that's part of the thing. It's like if you want to do things that are challenging, there's lots of ways to think about it, right? So certainly thoughts and beliefs are in that internal dialogue is really critical. Like you can do it, like the little engine that could. I think I can. I think I can.
I think a way to do that is to move beyond what I call the internal monologue. You have to have that dialogue where, oh, I'm too old. No, you're not. And this is why.
Yeah.
Just don't say it out loud. Just,
Right. Oh, I do that all the time. So maybe if climbing Mount Everest seems big, I'm sure that guy
Seems big?
Yeah, I'm sure he climbed a lot smaller mountains first.
Probably.
Right? So maybe you start small, you take gradual steps towards something that you want to do or work on. And it's always taking one step further, right? So you focus on the progress.
Yeah, but when you're 89, you can't take too many, too many steps to get there.
Joe, you're feeding into the stereotype here.
What, we're at 89, you're closer to death?
I want to kind of get back to stop it. That's not true. Stop that.
It's not true. Okay.
Bad Joe.
At 89, you're not closer to death than you
Bad
were at
Joe.
60.
Okay, so I completely lost what I was going to say. You've derailed my train of thought here.
Okay.
So
Mission accomplished.
I was trying to get back to what you were saying about doing something that you really want to do. Like,
sure.
I think that prioritize those activities that you get some joy out of. Start the sentence with, I've always wanted to fill in the blank.
Okay, go ahead. Fill in the blank.
This isn't about me, Joe. I'm just saying for our listeners, start there. This just came to me, but it's like, what a great question to ask yourself. Like, I always wanted to. Now, it's not a bucket list thing necessarily.
We should add this to the list of questions we ask in Real Talk.
Yes, yeah. Let's do that. Take a note. Again, you did it again. You just derailed me again. What is going on here?
I can't help it that you're forgetful.
A short putt.
Well, you were saying that the guy that climbed Mount Everest, it's probably not the first mountain he climbed. He climbed smaller mountains first.
Right. And he probably was very patient with himself. And he gave himself a lot of positive reinforcement and maybe had people around him to help him climb those mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a passion for it, right? He had a passion
I'm sure.
for it.
No, you really have to have a passion for it to do it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I came across when doing a little research for this episode is focus on the capabilities, not your age.
Yeah.
Don't say, oh, well, I'm 65 years old, so I can't do it. Say, well, what can I do?
Right.
Like those surfers
Right.
that would do one wave and be happy with it.
And also, you just need to take a moment to recognize everything that you've achieved in your lifetime. And what makes you think you can't do something else and
That's
achieve
true.
something else?
That's true.
Right? Like that didn't have to be an age related change. All of a sudden, I'm not capable. No. So that definitely relates to your own self beliefs.
In your own ageist beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
focus on the benefits that you get from something, even small things. I'll give you a very, very, very small example.
Yes, Joe.
I-
What is it?
I have recently, in the last couple of months, started doing the New York Times crossword puzzle every day. I was horrible.
The mini or the big one?
The big one.
Oh my goodness.
The big one. I do the
How
mini.
many hours does that take you, Joe?
It usually doesn't take me more than 45 minutes.
Oh, okay. Takes me like sometimes I go for less than a minute.
Oh, on the mini.
On the mini.
Oh yeah, the mini. I think my record is like 34 seconds or something like that.
Wow, impressive.
People that aren't familiar with it, Monday is the easiest day of the week.
Oh.
And they continually get a little bit more difficult through Saturday.
Okay.
And then Sunday's kind of difficult, but it's bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So there are more words to know. I was horrible. I was never good at crossword puzzles. I was horrible at it. Even Monday, I wouldn't be able to complete it.
Right.
Now I can consistently get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays.
Nice.
Pretty good on Thursdays too.
Yeah.
But it's a tiny little example of, well, my brain's not as sharp as it was when I was 35.
Mm-hmm.
No, it is. Sometimes it takes me an extra second to get
You have
that
to
word.
Train it. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And focus on, it's keeping my mind sharp.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. You got to focus on the benefits, right?
And it's honing a skill too.
Mhm.
And again, it's a tiny example. It's not like climbing Mount
Well,
Everest.
I could find lots of little examples like that too. Just like, start picking up going to the gym and you,
Mhm.
you start to be able to do more repetitions or it gets easier and you add weight. You celebrate the little wins,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
So it doesn't all have to be done overnight. You're not a failure if it doesn't happen overnight.
Now, if you're taking on a new challenge, something that you've never done before,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe the New York Times crossword puzzle.
Mm-hmm. You're going to get a tutor?
No, keep at it. Figure out a way to get a little bit better and a little bit better. And again, to reference Mike from last week, embrace the suck.
Yeah.
Realize that with every step that you take, you're learning a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to do a little bit more, whether it's doing the New York Times crossword puzzle or it's climbing, a 2,000-foot mountain, not Mount Everest, or just going on a run or learning how to wing foil.
I mean, we did it with pickleball, really.
Exactly.
Think about it.
Exactly right.
Right? I didn't know anything about that game when I started.
And
now look at me.
now look at you. Focus on progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
Right? Perfection's a pursuit. It's not an end goal.
Right.
You're never going to be perfect at anything.
Nope.
Okay, I'm glad you recognize that. Believing in your ability to do something will lead to greater achievement.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
If you just say, I can't,
well, I know
it's
you
a
hate
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. And I know you hate the word, and a lot of people do, manifestation, but that's really all that's about is stating something in a positive way as if it's happened already. Like have that belief that you can and you will and it is, rather than, oh gosh, I'm never going to get there. I can't do that. Right?
Mhm.
Again, that gets back to that internal dialogue or monologue.
Sure. Well, the monologue isn't the good one.
No.
The monologue is the thing saying you can't.
Oh.
The dialogue is saying,
Yes,
well,
you
yes, you
can.
can. Don't say that, Joe.
And you
Okay,
will.
Joe.
Okay, Joe.
Okay, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joe.
All right. If you want to take on a new challenge, you said it, fill in the blank. I've always wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do the New York Times crossword puzzle, play pickleball, go wing foiling.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are doing things for the first time.
Mhm.
I mean, I guess that's a nice thing about being this age is hopefully, knock on wood, you have more time,
Hopefully.
right? If you've retired and you have time to do those things that, you always wanted to, but never had a chance.
When my kids were younger, and they would take on something new and they weren't good at it right away. If they were learning how to play basketball, I'd say, oh, Michael Jordan or LeBron James. There was a time when they didn't know how to play basketball. They had to learn. Nobody's born with that knowledge. Nobody's born with the knowledge of
Right.
how to do anything, really.
Yeah. I mean, people are born with gifts, right? They have natural talents, but that's
But
the
they have to
whole
uncover
idea.
those.
Right. And they had to work at
Yeah.
it. And
And the people that we hear about, the Michael Jordans, the LeBron James, the Steph Currys in basketball, they uncovered their gifts. I'm sure there are many people who have those gifts that never uncovered them because they never pursued it.
right.
All right.
You just don't know what you can do until you try.
So take gradual steps.
Mm-hmm.
Be patient with yourself.
Right.
Here's something that we talk about, I would say, every other episode. Stay socially connected. Connect to people who are doing those things too.
Right. Right. Well, that's how you're going to get better. This is at the other spectrum of age, but I remember reading about this study that they did with little kids, toddlers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And say you have a 3-year-old, and if it hung out with, say, 4 or 5-year-olds, they come up into their abilities, right?
Yep.
And then if they hang out with 2-year-olds, they sort of downplay their.
Well, don't the 2-year-olds come up?
The 2-year-olds come up, but the 3-year-old also adjusts down.
So don't let your 5-year-old hang out with 3-year-olds because you're going to bring your 5-year-old down. That's the lesson you're teaching us.
No, I'm just saying that if you surround yourself with people who will challenge you or at least open you up to some new possibilities, and
You're just bringing them down.
no, you know what? I'm done. I don't want to. I'm not talking anymore.
Oh boy.
I am picking up my toys and I'm going home.
Well, this is exactly what we're saying not to do.
So if I first don't succeed in getting
And
you
then
to
quit.
cooperate, that I should try again.
Yes.
Well, it's been 89 episodes now. I would think by now you'd show a little more respect. R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
Oh, gosh.
I know what
It's
it
been a
means
long-
to me.
it's a long time since you sang.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
All right. So focus on the benefits, right?
Yep.
Mental stimulation. So doing the New York Times crossword puzzle.
Yep.
Mental stimulation. Do the Sudoku.
No, I don't like Sudoku.
Sudoku.
How do you say it?
Sudoku.
Sudoku?
No.
No, but I do a lot of other things. I do
Okay.
connections. I do spelling bee.
Okay.
And I do letterbox.
The letterbox is hard.
Yeah, and I challenge
These are all
myself.
New York Times
I have
puzzles.
to do that within 3 words.
Wow.
And I work
that's
it
pretty good.
until I get it in 3
Okay.
words.
All right, good.
Yeah. So
But
but again, talk about little progress.
do you ever-
First it was
do you-
like you have to get it within 5 words, right?
It varies. It varies from puzzle to puzzle.
But then I was like, oh, no, I'm going to get it in 4. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm going to get it in 3. And occasionally lately I've gotten it in 2.
Don't you get discouraged, though, when you look at yesterday's puzzle and they always get it in 2?
No,
Yes,
I
they
don't
do.
look at
Oh,
yesterday's
okay.
puzzle. See,
All right.
that's why I don't get discouraged.
Okay.
I live in a state of denial.
All right. Another benefit is physical health, right?
Yes.
Engaging in new activities.
It's good for your health because it's good for your brain. It's good for your body.
And it
It's all
all ends up being leading to increased happiness and well-being.
Yay.
And that's what it's all about.
And that's what we want to be.
So never do a podcast with Joe
Happy
because
and
you
well.
won't be happy and well if you're doing a podcast with Joe because he interrupts and
Yeah.
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 he brings down instead of lifts up.
Yeah. It's like playing with a 3-year-old.
All right. Did we bust the myth?
Let's bust the myth.
Did
we
we?
did bust the myth.
All right.
Yes.
That's it for this episode of the 60 Plus podcast. I'm Joe.
I'm Janet. Bye.